All right. Thank you, gentlemen. Let's move on to our final topic for today. The battle for the soul of Rivers State House of Assembly is going to the wire. The Victor Okojombo-led faction of the State Assembly, loyal to Governor Fubara, said it has filed an appeal at the Supreme Court to challenge the judgment of the Court of Appeal in favor of the pro-Wike lawmakers. Okojombo said the Assembly believes that the appeal court was in error when it held that the State High Court lacked the jurisdiction to hear and determine the suit, which attempts to sack the Martin Amewule-led faction. This came after the group of 60 members of the House of Representatives, led by Ikenga Ugochinyere, insisted that appeal courts did not void the declaration of the seat of the 25 Rivers lawmakers vacant. Let's share an update on the story with you. We'll be back to discuss.
We have instructed our lawyers, and they have filed an appeal through the Supreme Court of Nigeria, challenging the judgments of the Court of Appeal delivered on the 4th day of July 2024. This House of Assembly, with me as the Speaker, is the only House of Assembly in Rivers State. Martins Amewule and 24 others, in spite of all their pretenses, are no longer members of the Rivers State House of Assembly.
All right. First, Adekule, let me have your interpretation of that ruling and the implication on politics in Rivers State.
I didn't have access to the court papers. What I got, like maybe many Nigerians, are the interpretations from several groups, and I must, be honest to admit. So it's difficult for me. And politicians, you know them, very deceitful, very selfish. What they want is what they always want to prevail. And even to the point that the Supreme Court sometimes will declare, its verdict, and you still see various groups giving different interpretations, and you will see them say, okay, we will return to the Supreme Court to ask for the interpretation of this judgment. We are just a kind of human beings that only ourselves can define ourselves, especially I'm talking about our politicians. We don't lose. We never accept defeat. We must always win. Whatever happens, we don't care. And yet we mouth that we are Democrats, we want democracy. If you want democracy, you need to imbibe some democratic tenets. Now back to the issue. You know what is leading about all of this? Some of it is about people who are elected into the House of Assembly and who declare that they are moving into another party. And when you look at our laws, or especially the judgments from the courts, most times the verdicts have always been towards like the votes belong to the parties, not individuals. At least if you look at many of the Supreme Court judgments. So if that's the case, what do we do about defection midway? So the courts will need to give a definitive stand on this, because that has not been done. You do it, you invalidate it, you do it, you invalidate it. So let it be clear to every politician, especially those in the National Assembly, those in the state houses of assembly, when you are elected into a position and you abandon the party that is the vehicle that brought you there, what happens to your seat? If everybody knows this, maybe many of these problems may fizzle out, and it is left to our court to do. I feel embarrassed with the...
But the court also said the defection was just verbal, and there was no documentation to that effect.
Then, well, the Supreme Court will have the final say on that. You get what I'm saying? if you say you are no longer, I don't want to. I'm not a judge, and so.
Adekunle, let me come to you. Do you really think, or do you think that I do apologize. Do you think that press conference by the G60 lawmakers were really instigating?
Well, I think we should be grateful to the judiciary because the crisis between the two factions almost going extreme that we are afraid that might even resort to violence. But at least there is an institution that is independent that can look at the arguments of those parties, the parties involved, and then take a decision that is binding by law, which is a face-saving development for all of us in Nigeria. Because if we leave them to resolve this crisis between themselves, I think nothing will happen. The others have failed, political leaders on both sides have failed. So we are now looking at the judiciary, and the decision of the Supreme Court will be final. At the Court of Appeal, they were suspended December 13, 2023. The other factions suspended them, 25 of them. I don't know anywhere in the world where a part can be greater than the whole. Minority suspending majority based on the fact that they made verbal statements. So I think when they went to the High Court, to the State High Court, of course they won. But at the Court of Appeal, the issue now is jurisdiction. The Court of Appeal is saying that only the High Court has jurisdiction to entertain this case and to take decisions. I'm happy that there's a speedy approach to the case, because in other cases this might have lasted for years. So most likely in the next 90 days, there's going to be a final verdict by the Supreme Court on this issue. So I think that's a bonus for us, so that Fubara will know where in law his position stands. And then the other faction that are for the former governor, we know where their position stands. In my own perspective, I think it was wrong for Edison to have suspended the 25 lawmakers, because you cannot enforce the law. If you want to suspend it, you first need to seek judicial interpretation. And that's what they are now doing after those lawmakers have been suspended. So we are looking at a situation where the Supreme Court will come with a final verdict, which will bind both parties. If Fubara wins, good luck to him. If Wike wins, that's a big minus for the government.
But since the Supreme Court had said that only the Federal High Court has jurisdiction over this matter, why do you think these guys are saying they're going to the Supreme Court? Shouldn't everyone go back to the Federal High Court now? Yeah,
I actually was thinking that should have been the normal thing, that they should go to the High Court. But maybe their lawyer may have advised them that they should go to the Supreme Court. Probably they think that they will get the judicial system, the justice system will be faster. But I think it's also good, because once the Supreme Court takes a decision, then it's going to be final, However, we are not sure whether the position of the Supreme Court will be is going to be on jurisdiction. So if it's on jurisdiction, then they will go back to the Federal High Court. And then when the Federal High Court takes a decision, then you can now go to Court of Appeal again. So the prospect of the legal process taking longer period is still there. It's not ruled out,
All right, Adekunle, why do you think judges, sit over cases they do not have jurisdiction over?
Don't forget that judges don't just sit on any case. You bring it to them. You pay.
The lawyers take it to them.
Yes,
so this is on the lawyers,
you file,
not the judges,
pay the appropriate
judiciary.
Yes, now you register a case, you pay the appropriate fees, and they brought it before the judge. And the judge will have to take a look to know whether he has a jurisdiction or not.
So when you see that you do not have jurisdiction, what are you supposed to do?
See, the burden we are putting on the judiciary, to me, is unnecessary. We are putting them under pressure. There are so many things they should have, used their talent, time, and energy to do. But this time, unnecessary controversies, unnecessary disagreements. What is happening in Rivers State is not a problem from God. It's a man-made problem. You understand me? And even if this one, they went to Supreme Court, I can tell you, it won't bring solution to the problems. They will still need to come and sit down. Yes, if the Supreme Court decides today, they will still give a different interpretation, look for another angle to take to, since the talk is about High Court, they will still have to. So that is how messy the problem is, and it's a reflection of the kind of politicians we have. The political class is extremely selfish. They don't care about anybody, they only care about their interest. So today, this one seems to be right, this one seems to be wrong. All of them are the same thing. So why, over the governing of a state, and the whole country is, we have to be talking. You know, there are so many angles to this problem. We are only narrowing our discussion to just one. The local government thing is also there.
We'll come back to
So there are so many. And the people are the losers because the state is ungovernable. When you need to, you know, collectively harness the resources, both manpower and financial of the state to govern, there's a lot to do in Rivers State. And when I look at it today, I just laugh. So we are going this direction. It's not good for party. I mean, both camps anyway. The Wike camp, the Fubara camp, you know, because the two of you, what do you want for Rivers? Development, progress. With the way the two of them are approaching it, is that taking place? I don't think so. If you like, you go to court. After the Supreme Court, you know, pronounces, you will see there will be another angle from this same issue that some people will see. You know, lawyers know how to make money from desperate individuals, especially our politicians.
All right, Adeoye, let me come to you. The same question. Why do judges entertain cases they do not have jurisdiction over? Article says we should blame politicians.
Yes, it's correct. That is one aspect of the problem. But there are other aspects. The other aspect is corruption. Corruption in Nigeria. And judiciary is also part of Nigeria. Just as, you know, the political class is also part of Nigeria. Law is an extension of politics. And sometimes we have seen cases where judges are influenced by political stakeholders. Because if you know clearly that you don't have the jurisdiction on the particular case, the normal thing for you is to strike it out based on the fact that you don't have jurisdiction. But we know that judges are also
So why are we blaming politicians?
Yeah, we can blame politicians, but not only politicians, we also need to blame the system itself, the judicial system that needs fundamental reforms. You know, judges need to declare their assets. It's not just political office holders alone. That's what they do in other countries. If judges begin to buy houses in Dubai and all that, we need to know. So the corruption we are talking about, we can't, you know, the judiciary is also not immune from issues of corruption. We have seen it happen. There are some cases that people take judges abroad. I'm not saying all of them. There are a lot of decent, honest judges, and we know them. You know, buy things for them. Some are going abroad. Some even give laptops every year. You see it branded to them. So, but there are also honest judges who are committed to, you know, transforming this society. But the fact of the matter is that judges, politicians, there are also some of them that are also part of the corrupt network. So we need to deal with a problem of corruption if we are talking about having a functional judicial system. And also independence of the judiciary from political meddling, you know, especially at the state and federal level, where some governors think that because, you know, there is a state high court, then they can dictate to, you know, to the judges.
All right, so River State's Independent Electoral Commission has announced October 5 for the conduct of the local government elections. Why did you think it took all this political theatrics to arrive at this?
You know, the stakeholder, you remember the expiration of tenure of local governments, and the right thing to do by our law is to elect a new set of people to take over. But in Nigeria, you know what we do? We just park some people, I think caretaker or what do they call them, to just, which is totally against the law. The law never envisaged that practice. But that's the norm in Nigeria now. It's totally illegal. But that is, look at Now, those who now realize that they don't want to break the law, they will do elections. There is nowhere in Nigeria where election into the local government, system is transparent. It's not credible. The party that is in power, usually, dominates. And when you monitor the election there, you realize that it's just a charity. So, and this goes beyond party A, parties, all of them. It's all. So, what are we going to do? You will see discussions around this topic. Some people are saying maybe INEC should go back and take over that function.
Local government elections.
Will that solve the problem? I don't think so. Because even other elections that INEC conducts, we still have issues. We still have a lot of disagreements. So, because the state governors are always in charge when it comes to the local governments, so I'm not saying finance alone, but when it comes to leadership at that level, everywhere in Nigeria, the state governments are in charge. And when they conduct election, I can bet it. What will happen is what we know. In River State is what we see. All right,
Adeoye, we need to wrap up quickly, but former First Lady, Patience Jonathan, and Senator Jules Okadio have both asked these warring parties to sheath their sword. Is there still room for reconciliation at all?
If there is political will on both sides, this issue can be resolved amicably. But when people are driven by ego, they are driven by a personal interest, it's not always easy to resolve this problem because we are not talking about issues that affect the reality of the people. It's about programs of, on economy, on health, on this. It's very easy to resolve. Just bring people together, they debate it, and then you come out with a paper that will reflect the interest of the board. This is about personal interest. It's about primitive accumulation of wealth, control of political structure, by cartels. So cartels are fighting and one wants to dominate the other. But there's still room, theoretically, if there's wisdom, if you can allow wisdom to...
Theoretically. All right, gentlemen, let me thank you for your perspective on the programs this afternoon. Adewale Adeoye and Adekunle Yusuf. We must also thank BKO for joining us at some point. Thank you so much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for watching, everyone. That's all on Journalist Hangout on Sunday. Join us tomorrow for the regular episode of the program at 5 p.m. You can watch the repeat broadcast of this episode tonight at 11:30. We are on YouTube at youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. I am Olajumoke Olatunji.